أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قال ومن يقنط من رحمة ربه إلا الضالون. Please recite a salawat. Respected listeners, my dear brothers and sisters, respected Shaykh, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to start with an anecdote. I have a friend who lives in Norway, and he's a convert to Islam, very nice man, and very witty as well. So one day he went to have a pizza with one of his friends, and when they were having this pizza, my friend asked the other gentleman, can we use the same sauce and dip our pizza in the same sauce? Is that okay for you? So that gentleman said, no, please use spoons, because I'm a bit crazy. So my friend said something very interesting to that gentleman. My friend said, do not worry, brother. We are all crazy. We're all crazy in different ways. And you know, this is something very interesting. There is some truth in it. There is quite some truth in it, because we are all crazy. Some with a lower intensity, some with a higher intensity, some with a lot higher intensity. And the only people who are really, really, really sane in this world are the infallible human beings and insane kamil. They do not have any issues when it comes to mental health. They cannot have, because their aql is perfect. Everyone else, the prophets and the imams and those who are trained by them, like the kinds of Sayyidah Zainab and Abul Fadl al-Abbas and their kinds, they don't have any issues when it comes to mental health. This we need to understand very well. Never, ever can an infallible have that. But rest of the people can have anxieties, can have worries, can have issues from time to time. And it is okay. Because we are not infallible. Our aql is not kamil and perfect. And in Islamic literature, and in Islamic akhlaq, and Islamic irfan, there are practices to get rid of those issues, which I said can be minor, can be asleep, can be significant, and can be really intense. Can be really intense. As you know, today's topic is mental health. And I've given it the title, Suffering in Silence, Your Mental Health Matters. Because it does matter. We need to discuss our mental health matters, because your mental health matters. And it is a very sensitive topic. I know it's a difficult topic as well. So I'm going to try, inshallah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take a look at this topic from a theological perspective, because I'm not a psychologist. Theological perspective, mostly, inshallah. So what I'm going to discuss in this lecture and what you're going to learn during the next 41 minutes or so is the following. First of all, what's the root cause of mental health issues? And are you responsible for your misery? Are you, if someone is suffering from mental health issues, are you responsible first? And after that, what does Islam say about it? Is there anything in our religion that can help us with our mental health issues? What is it? And then that will be the bulk of this lecture, inshallah. And after that, I will take a closer look at history and give the historical accounts of some of the events that took place after Ashura and end this lecture with a eulogy, inshallah. So if you pay attention, inshallah, I'm going to take it a bit slowly and carefully. Inshallah, I'm going to talk about things that are going to help us all in our life and dealing with some of our mental health issues, or our loved ones, or those we know, people, our acquaintances, our family members, if someone is suffering from those issues. But before I proceed, please recite a loud and beautiful salawat. So, mental health, why is it so important, first of all? Nowadays, we see that this issue has come to the fore. Even in the corporate world, they are talking about neurotypical people, neurodiverse people. So it has taken like center stage pretty much, which has been ignored for a very long time. And people have suffered in silence because it has been a taboo. It has been a taboo if someone has some mental health issues. And I'm gonna categorize it in a bit. Like there can be different kinds of mental health issues. So it has come to the fore. As I said, in the corporate world, in the society in general, the acceptance is increasing. Like people can have mental health issues just like people can have physical health issues. But more needs to be done, and as I said, this is a very complex and complicated and sensitive topic. And more often than not, those who have mental health issues, they start to blame themselves. They think, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel bad? Am I a good Muslim? Maybe I'm a bad Muslim. They start to beat themselves and think they are responsible for their misery. Are they? So when you look at the research, we come to know that mental health issues can be because of different factors. There's not a single factor, such as lack of faith, for example, that has resulted in someone's mental health issues. First of all, genetics. We see in the literature that genetics plays a very important role in people having mental health issues and personality disorders. Now, here at the onset of this lecture, pretty much in the beginning, I would like to make this distinction. One thing is mental health issues, and one thing is serious mental health issues and personality disorders that interfere with people's lives, the really serious issues. So we have to make this distinction. We have to make it. Simple mental health issues like light depression, negative thoughts, anxiety, worries, that one can deal with without medication or therapy. That's one category. And then there are those serious issues like bipolar and that kind, and the extreme form of OCD and other types that one cannot deal with on their own, no matter how much Quran you recite every day. Those you need to go to the experts and you need medication and therapy. I'll get back to it in a bit. But first, whether it is those serious types or it is those, let's call it less intense types, the research tells us that genes and genetics has a lot to do with it. A lot. It's not the only factor, but it has a lot to do with it. I read a report that there was an experiment conducted at a university, and the scientist conducted an experiment on mice. It is a controversial study, but this is very interesting study in this context. They conducted a study on male mice. And what did they do that? They exposed them to the fragrance of cherry blossoms. And at that very moment, they gave them controlled shocks in their feet. So as soon as the male mice smelled that cherry blossoms, they felt that shock and they became fearful. And they perceived it to be a reaction to that smelling of that fragrance. And then what did they do? Then they let those male mice mate with female mice, and then they had pups. And then they let those pups grow. And then they let those pups smell cherry blossom without any shocks associated with it. As soon as they smelled those smells of cherry blossom, the pups, they became fearful. They became anxious. So they deduced that these memories of fear and anxiety, this information is passed on to generations through genes. Now, this study is considered, as I said, controversial. But if we assume for a second that, okay, there could be a likelihood that this information is passed on to the generations, then we can come to the conclusion that genes and hereditary factors is an important factor in people's mental health issues, which means they are not responsible for their misery. They're not responsible, and there's a lot of research about that. The second factor is brought up, childhood. What kind of household a child was brought up in? What kind of society? What kind of society, country? If a child grew up in a toxic environment, an environment where the child was bullied all the time or physically abused, the child is going to develop mental health issues. Is going to develop. Or if a child is brought up in a war-torn country, in a war zone, there's a great likelihood that that child is going to have anxieties or PTSD or other mental health issues when that child grows up. What is the fault of that child? What's the fault of that child? No fault. Either the child has inherited some mental health issues, or was brought up in such a society, community, family, that has contributed to those worries and anxieties. As I said, this can be the ordinary types or less intense types of issues, or the very, very strong types of mental health issues. These factors contribute to that. But the thing about mental health is that it is elastic. It is elastic. It can change for better, and it can change for worse. And we see that. And you probably have seen videos of people who have shared their stories where they had mental health issues and then they worked on themselves. They got therapy, sometimes they got medication, or sometimes they got self-help. And then their mental health improved. They started associating with positive people, positive company, changes in lifestyle, better habits, and their mental health improved and changed for better. So if it can change for better, it means it's elastic. It means it can change for worse as well. If you sit in a toxic environment, bad friends, not a conducive environment, mental health can change for worse. So again, I will keep repeating some things because it is an important and sensitive topic. Two things I'm going to keep repeating throughout the lecture. First, if someone has mental health issues, they are not responsible for their misery. Stop blaming yourself. Do not do that. Do not do that. So this I will keep repeating a couple of times. The second thing, there are the two categories. The intense types, the very serious types, they need help. They need medication, therapy, help from the experts. because they cannot deal with their issues on their own, at least initially. They cannot deal with that. But the less intense types with lifestyle changes, mental health is elastic, it can improve. With spirituality, it can improve. And I'll get back to spirituality in a bit and the role that religion plays in mental health. But before that, I would like to say, there has been an increased focus on mental health, and I know that this blessed community and this blessed organization and center has organized programs and workshops to increase and raise mental health awareness, which is a great thing. And I think other centers and mosques also have to follow suit and also organize these programs. But we cannot do enough to raise mental health awareness, because mental health is so important. It is the most important thing, the most important thing, the most important issue in our lives. People have taken wrong decisions in their lives. People have taken wrong decisions, chosen wrong careers, chosen wrong life partners, taken impulsive decisions, bad decisions, and have had terrible lives because they were not aware what they were going through. They were not aware. And the research tells us that it can take 10 to 15 years before someone comes out and is willing to accept that one has mental health issues and seeks help. So it is very, very important. And why people do not come out? Because there is a strong stigma attached to it. People are afraid. People are afraid of their family members, that they will be judged. People will think they are crazy. They must have done something wrong. They are sinners. They are being punished. Shaitan is controlling them. Maybe there is a jadoo, magic on them. Maybe they are possessed. Because all these thoughts exist. We need to become open about it. And in this world, which is a postmodern world, as we know, the overarching theme of this series of lectures is finding our feet in a postmodern world. In this postmodern world, the kind of lifestyles we have, they're only exacerbating mental health issues. Those issues, those things, those factors that have been hidden and asleep, these lifestyles and life choices are bringing them to the fore. People, this individualism, and the excessive use of social media, social comparisons, all of this are contributing to the rise of mental health issues of people. Especially the individualism and people living alone and loneliness. And here the community can play a very important role. Those people who have an active spiritual life and they go to the mosques and they meet other believers are prone not to have mental health issues of that sort which those people have who live alone and are lonely. It really, really helps. So if you come to know about someone who might be suffering in silence, try to bring them to the mosque. Try to interact with them. But as I said, it depends on the intensity. If someone is really, really, really suffering, you can't help them. No. It's beyond you. You can't. They need really help, medication. There was this brother, let me tell you a personal anecdote. I met a brother in one of the European countries many, many, many years ago. And I saw that the brother was active at mosque. That's the interesting thing. The brother was active in the mosque, recited beautifully poetry and stuff. But I never saw him say prayers, salat. So one day I said to that brother, why don't you say salat? You are, mashallah, so active in the mosque. Why don't you say salat? He said, you know, I've been ordered not to say salat. I said, what? You've been ordered not to say salat? Who has ordered you to not to say salat? He said, those whose ziyarah I do. I said, this is getting interesting. Now, I wasn't that much aware of mental health issues and stuff at that time either. So this is interesting. What do you mean? He said, those whose ziyarah I get to do, they have ordered me not to say salat. I said, who are you talking about? Whose ziyarah you get to do? He said, all of them. Referring to the 14 infallibles, I understood from the context. And they have ordered me not to say salat. So I started arguing with the brother, which I shouldn't have done. I didn't understand what was going on fully. I thought he was crazy, I thought. So I said, but you know, salat is wajib. He said, you know what? I tried to say salat. But when I put turbah in front of me, I see the picture of shaitan in the turbah. The brother had some serious issues. Some serious issues, and no one cared. And I don't know how he is doing now. I really hope and pray that he's in a better shape. But this was an extreme case, maybe. And the thing about picturing shaitan and stuff is that some mental health issues are so severe, so serious, that if you start telling them, those who suffer from that, about God and religion, it's gonna make it worse for them. They're not ready to receive that. They're not ready to receive your maw'izah and all good things about God and religion. No. They're gonna hate God. They're gonna say bad things about religion and religious figures if you started talking to them at that stage. So it's very important, if someone is at that level, encourage them, take them to the experts. And someone might say, experts? So what is the religion doing? Why is the religion not solving their mental health issues? Some people say, you religious people, when someone has a mental health issues, you say, go to the psychologist. What is this? It means the religion is failing. So I would say, when someone says to us, I have a physical ailment, even then we say to them, go to the doctor. Don't go to the Maulana. Go to the doctor. So when someone has a mental illness, we say to them, go to the specialist. Don't come to me. Because the ilm of a psychologist is also from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That ilm, just like the ilm of a doctor, is also from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All ilm trickles down from Lawh Mahfuz. All ilm, which is a reflection, a limited reflection of the eternal ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some other time we'll talk about that, but all ilm. Of course, sometimes psychologists or scientists misunderstand certain concepts and come up with ideas that are in contradiction with our religious beliefs. Then we do not have to follow them. But in general, why not? Why can't you go to them? Now the question is, religion. How can religion help us? Those people who have mental health issues. So the religion is three things, as we all know. Usuluddin, Furu'uddin, and Akhlaq. In other words, beliefs, fiqh, and ethics and akhlaq. I'm going to talk about the aqaid or beliefs in the next part of the lecture. First, I want to take a look at fiqh, then akhlaq, and then aqaid, how it can help us. And again, I have to repeat, as I said, you're not responsible for your mental health issues if you have, or your loved ones have. It's not because of the lack of faith. It's not. However, faith helps. And it helps those who do not have that level of intensity in their mental health issues that requires immediate attention and medication and therapy. Those who do not require that, faith can help them big time. And those who require medication and therapy, they should first take that and then become a little bit better, and then faith can help them again. So fiqh. Now, fiqh is not there to give the cure of mental health issues, just like it is not there to give the cure of physical ailments. The domain of fiqh is to give religious rulings. And when we look at the fiqh, Islamic fiqh, the Shia fiqh, we see that it does take into account some mental health issues without talking about it, without spelling it out. For example, the famous ruling about the shak of kathir shak, the doubt of someone who doubts a lot, whether I have done wudu, I still have wudu, whether something is a tahir, something is najis. The one who has a lot of waswasa, a lot of doubts, the fiqh says that they do not have to think about their doubt. They do not have to take into account, just continue praying. So fiqh helps in that way. Now, the fiqh does not say that this person has OCD, for example, obsessive compulsive disorder or something, but it appears that such a person most likely has some sort of mental health issues like OCD, that they do a lot of waswasa, oh, is it tahir, again and again. That's typically OCD. But the fiqh says, do not think about it, continue doing what you're doing. But those who have the severe form of OCD, that fatwa is not going to help them. That can only help them after they have taken some therapy or some medication, and then they can think clearly and practice and say, okay, now I don't have to really think too much about that doubt. The fiqh also talks about this principle of istasahab. What is that principle? Basically, it tells us that if you've seen a thing in a certain state, and after that you doubt that its state has changed, so you will consider it to be in the previous state that you're 100% sure about. For example, you saw something that it was a tahir, you are sure it was tahir, pure. After that, you started to think whether or not it has become najis. Now, since you are not 100% sure, you will consider it tahir. Similarly about wudu, the last state was that you had wudu, but if you doubt whether I have wudu or not, so you will consider that you do have wudu. So the fiqh talks about it. The fiqh also takes into account the extreme and serious mental health and personality disorders, such as schizophrenia. Traditionally, it's called janoon. The fiqh tells us that the one who is majnoon or has janoon and does not know what they are doing, if they commit a crime, they cannot be punished. Even if a majnoon kills someone, majnoon, it has to be proven clinically. This person does not know what they are doing. They are not accountable for their deeds. It has been proven. You can't punish them. You will isolate them, yes, so that they don't hurt others, but you can't kill them. I mean, you can't punish them. And so the religion, fiqh, does take those things into account. Now, but there are so many, there's this plethora of mental health issues nowadays. ADHD, how does the fiqh talk about ADHD? For example, concentrating on prayers. Those people who have problem concentrating on prayers, if they have ADHD of some form, it's going to be really difficult for them, and they keep forgetting which rakat they are in. So then there is this shakiyatus salat. But some people find shakiyatus salat so complicated that they are better off concentrating on the prayers in the first place. But some people find it. But if someone has that sort of, and they can't even follow the shakiyatus salat, then we have salatul jama'ah. They should pray congregational prayers, even at home. Father can lead, they say behind. For example, friends can help them, salatul jama'ah, then they can concentrate on prayers. They don't have to think which rakats and all that. So there's always something that can help people. Our religion is a religion of ease. to find solutions. It is a solutions-oriented religion, not problems-oriented religion. There was someone, and he completely misunderstood. He said, this is not a tawdihul masail. It is a tawsi'ul masail. Someone said ironically. Of course, we take distance from that thought. He thought that there were so many fiqhi masail that it was broadening of the masail of fiqh. No, it is tawdihul masail. It explains the fiqhi masail to make our life easy. So it does take that into account, but it cannot cure. It cannot cure mental health illnesses. But akhlaq-e Islami, Islamic ethics, Islamic akhlaq, for centuries has dealt with mental health issues. Psychology, modern psychology started only 200 years ago. But akhlaq-e Islami, for 1400 years ago, ilmun nafs, trying to understand your nafs, dealing with the diseases of the soul, they do not use the word mental health, but they tell practices. Mindfulness, being mindful of the presence of God. Someone went to Allama Tabatabai, said, Agha gave me some advice. He said, be mindful of the presence of God. And Urafa try those things. They have those practices to get rid of those issues that they might have. So akhlaq-e Islami somehow deals with the mental health issues, but they do not spell it out. And there is a gap, although there has been a great work done in Islamic ethics, but sometimes I feel there is a gap in Islamic ethics. We need to incorporate mental health into Islamic ethics, and some people are trying to do that. When you look at the classical books of Islamic ethics, like Mi'raj al-Sa'ada, what a beautiful book. I strongly recommend you to read that book. That is so beautiful and gives peace and gives one tools to deal with one's issues of the soul. But it does not say anything about mental health at all, because that was not the issue back then. Then a more recent book, Chehel Hadith, 40 Hadith, beautiful book, remarkable book, but Hadith number 25 in 40 Hadith deals with waswasa, someone who has shak, doubt, someone who is doing things all the time, making them tahir, thinking it's najis tahir. And the Hadith, the author uses severe tone, lashes out at such a person, says this is amal shaitan, playing into the hands of shaitan, this is this, this is that. But not even once does the author mention that this person might have OCD, because the book was written 5-6 decades ago and it was not an issue. So maybe someone needs to do some annotations to these classical books. Do some annotations. Those who are experts in theology and have done research in psychology, maybe this is for them to write annotations. And there is, as I said, work, research taking place in our Marakiz Ilmi where people are talking about these subjects. So akhlaq helps. But again, those who have a severe form of a mental health issue, they need to go to get medication or therapy first, then religion. And the first principle, you are not responsible for your misery. You are not. Get this out of your head. You are not. But this does not mean you do not have to take faith seriously. You are not having mental health issues because you have a weak faith. No. The starting point is not weak faith. No. I know people who are muttaqi. They say prayers. They recite Quran, they go on ziyarah, they go on hajj, and they thank God every day, several times a day, wholeheartedly. And yet they are depressed from time to time. And you are telling me your problem is because of lack of faith? No. They have some issues. They're grateful to God for what they have, and they're genuinely grateful, but they have vacuums in their life. Some of their basic needs are not being met, and as long as they have vacuum in their lives, they are going to have issues. But they can deal with those issues. And faith helps greatly. Aqa'id. Aqa'id. The last thing I said, aqa'id, basic beliefs, are so beautiful. If we understood our basic beliefs properly and profoundly, we can deal with our mental health issues of the lower intensity. Ourselves, never losing hope in the mercy of Allah. Never. Never. Whatever happens in the universe is a manifestation of Ar-Rahman. In one way or other. God has never forsaken you. Never. So no matter what kind of pain you are going through, and I know, if someone is going through pains, and I know, it's easier said than done, and you'll say to me, what do you know what I am going through? I wish you were in my shoes, they would say. And I say, yes, no one can imagine your pain. No one can imagine your pain. But I am here to tell you one thing. I'm going to tell you something that Ibrahim said, alayhi salam, long time ago. Something beautiful. Something deep. Something so nice that we need to learn it and internalize it. And he said, verse number 56 of Surah Al-Hijr that I recited in the opening sermon. قَالَ وَمَنْ يَقْنَطُ مِنْ رَحْمَةِ رَبِّهِ إِلَّا الضَّالُّونَ. And he said, who despairs of the mercy of his Lord except the misguided ones? And you are not misguided. Yes, you have issues. Sometimes you are angry. Even sometimes you are angry at God. Okay. That was the moment. In that moment you were, so be it. But now, you're listening about God. I know you always turn back to God. Keep doing that. Do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never. He knows what you are going through. You are telling me that He does not know? Or maybe He cannot help you? Or He does not have the power to help you? No, some things just happen. You're not being punished. It is just like this. But one thing I'm telling you, He's gonna make up for it. In this world or in the hereafter. I guarantee you. All the pains that you have gone through, all the trouble that you have gone through because of your issues, He is going to make up for it for sure, certainly. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Maybe it is only a test. We cannot understand the grand scheme of things. Sometimes we simply have to accept it and pin our hopes on our Lord. Aqaid tell us that this dunya, the life of this dunya, is nothing but mata', fleeting joys, short-lived joys. That vacuum that you have in your life, all those things that you could not have, even if you had those things, they would be fleeting joys. This time too shall pass, this life. And if you are having those thoughts of despair, negativity, remember that there's been time when you were positive. You were not angry. You had peace at heart. Remember those times. And if you are having these troubles, these chains, these shackles, because these are shackles, these issues. that keep hurting us all, that have tied us all, and you want to break these shackles. So I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you, in those moments when you are not angry with God, in those moments when you do not hate the religion, listen to me, in those moments you're going to do something. You want to break those shackles. You've got to speak to two prisoners. You've got to do tawassul with two prisoners who were shackled. One is the prisoner of Baghdad, and the other is the prisoner of Sham. They will help you. They will break those shackles. They will free you. They will send someone into your life. They will send signs. They are a manifestation of the one who sends sakinah into the qulub of mu'mineen. They will do something. I promise you. I guarantee you. Do that. Do that. You're not responsible for your misery. You're not. You do not have lack of faith that is giving you these problems. It's not. But faith will help you. Those two prisoners will help you. They will help you. And they, the Ahlul Bayt, they have emotions. They have emotions, strong emotions. They feel pain when things happen to them in their lives. But it does not affect their mental health at all. Because their aql is so kamil, so perfect. They accept everything that comes from the beloved. They stand up to the oppression. They oppose the oppressors. They even shed tears. But those tears are not the tears of depression. No. They are not tears of depression. And those who are close to the Ahlul Bayt, they go through all the trauma. They went through that trauma, saw that bloodshed, the rattling of swords, the neighing of horses, blood, the shoutings, the slogans of the enemy, the veils were snatched, the tents were burnt, and despite that, the daughters of Ali stood there in all their dignity and integrity. The accursed enemy thought they could break Zainab. They could break the will of Kulthum. They didn't know who they were. They didn't know. After all that bloodshed and trauma, they stood there like mountains of Tawheed. And when they were brought to Kufa, you know what happened? There were 80 or so people, 80 or so women, Sayyid al-Sajidin, the only man, and children. You know, children. I want to talk about children today. The cute children of Karbala. The cute children. They were brought. And they were in those litters, mahamil, on the camels. And you know, when they were brought to Kufa and were being paraded through the streets of Kufa, it is written in the books of Maqtal, Sara ahlul Kufati. The people of Kufa came. يناولون الأطفال الذين على المحامل بعض التمر والخبز والجوز. People of Kufa came and they started throwing something to the children of the Ahlul Bayt. You know what was that? Dates, bread, walnuts of sadaqah. Of sadaqah. Lady Kulthum spoke up there. The daughter of Ali spoke up there. The daughter of Haydar al-Karrar Ghair Farrar. Al-Batal al-Rajul Asadullah al-Ghalib. The daughter of the conqueror of Khaybar stood up there with her dignity and integrity. In the midst of those thousands of people, she said, Ya Ahl al-Kufa, inna as-sadaqata alayna haramun. Indeed, sadaqah is haram upon us. We are the children of the Holy Prophet. What did she do? What did she do? She moved forward, pulled those dates, those pieces of bread out of the mouths of those innocent children, out of the hands of those innocent children. And then she said to the people of Kufa, Sah ya Ahl al-Kufa. Shut up. Shut up. Keep quiet. تقتلنا رجالكم وتبكينا نساؤكم. Your men killed us, and your women, they are lamenting for us. Shut up, do not do this. You did not support Hussein. Kulthum stood there with that dignity, with that fasaha, spoke there. They could not break the will of Zainab. They thought they could deprive them of the honor Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to them by snatching the veils. They are the embodiment of honor. The embodiment of honor. All those women in Kufa, the women of the Ahlul Bayt, Zainab, Kulthum, Fatima, Sakina, Atika, Ruqayya, and one more woman, Rubab, who had just lost something very precious, two precious things in the plains of Nainawa. Her beloved Hussein, and Ali al-Asghar, and both have one thing in common, one last sentence, and then the majlis is over. One last sentence. The two beloveds, Rubab lost in Karbala, have one thing in common. Both went through dhibh, slaughter. You know what's the difference between these two? Hussein and Ali al-Asghar on one hand, and all the rest on the other. The others' heads were severed after they had been martyred. But these two went through slaughter. Hussein was still alive. When he was slaughtered. And Ali al-Asghar, فَذُبِحَ مِنَ الْأُذُنِ إِلَى الْأُذُنِ. And he was slaughtered from one ear to the other. And he was slaughtered from one ear to the other. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعن أعدائهم أجمعين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.